I'm so sorry. Oh my god. I don't think you knew that I could see you in the background before our pictures pop back up. Wait, your facial expression. I'm sorry. Okay.
Focus.
It's like you went into like I'm in character. Oh, real fast. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Same Cast Different Day podcast. I'm Martell Roland.
And I'm Tina.
Yay, Tina's here. What going on?
Not much. Chilling.
Before we had one on the air, Tina had a drink to that. So
Okay, wait. So you telling me I could have just drank straight out of my bottle?
I mean, if anybody has watched any of my TikTok lives lately, I don't use a cup no more.
Well,
But yeah. So on today's episode, Tina is gonna let us. We gonna talk some science with Tina when it comes to T.S. Madison and her. Was it T.S. Madison? I made the comments right.
yes.
Okay, T.S. Madison comments. We're going to talk about the government announcing that aliens they do exist. We have a story from Tank about his time back in the day with TGT, and our favorite friend has an update on Ron DeSanta, and then we also have another guy who tells us about some guy who's like homophobic or something like that and killed somebody and they were trying to release somebody to jail or something like that. But we're going to get into that later in the show. But let's let Tina get things started off with T.S. Madison.
Okay, so in the past week, I don't know if anybody has seen on social media where T.S. Madison and Just Hilarious kind of had a back and forth. So T.S. Madison originally put out a post talking about how transgender women can basically do everything cisgender women can, including having a menstrual cycle. So Jess Hilarious decided to want to comment or do a reaction about that post. And she was enraged um, and basically saying that trans women cannot have periods because you do not have all the body parts to do so. So that was pretty much the meat and potatoes of the situation. And I guess we can kind of get into some discussion about that. So I am a cisgender woman, and I support the LGBTQ plus community. Always have been, always will. I guess I'm not offended by the comments. I think I'm a little bit surprised, flabbergasted. It can be a whole slew of adjectives that I can use about um it's an opinion, but it was spoken more of like a fact. And we're gonna get down to these facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that allows a cisgender woman to have a menstrual period? Right? It composes of a uterus, ovaries, and a vagina, right? So you got
Oh,
so you got your ovaries that actually produce hormones that allow the lining of the uterus to build up in anticipation to a fertilized egg. If this fertilized egg isn't received within a certain amount of time, and the window, the cycle is different for every woman, right? Um, Average is about 28 days for this whole cycle to occur. That uterus lining will begin to shed, which causes a period. I'm sorry, y'all. Or a menstrual cycle.
Torian making his normal appearance, everybody.
So trans women can opt to have a bottom surgery, which plastic surgeons construct a vagina. Okay. Transgender women do not have, were not born with ovaries, in a uterus, which is why um, a lot of people opt to have hormone shots because they lack the ovaries to make the hormones. Okay. So it is physically impossible for a transgender woman to have a menstrual period. And I guess the confusion comes along the line as to why people don't understand that. Um, it's been like that since the beginning of time. This is how human beings procreate. This is how people are born, right? So I guess I've been reading a lot of comments where a lot of cisgender women um, feel like they can't have anything. Arrow. Can't they can't have anything. Arrow. They can't have anything to themselves, um, especially when it's inclusive to a cisgender woman. Now, mind you, we didn't have a choice of if we were going to be cisgender or cisgender woman or cisgender male. That's something that our parents, particularly the male, decides when we are conceived. Okay. It all comes down to chromosomes, so on and so forth, all that jazz. So I guess I don't I don't understand what the I don't get it. I don't get it. I feel like women have historically, cisgender women have historically been the last to receive a lot of rights, particularly minority cisgender women. And we're going to break it down to African American cisgender women. There's a lot of things that women had to fight for equality. And then I guess especially when cisgender women have been very supportive of the trans community, just historically, now it's like that they're coming for us. And I'm like, why? Right? So that's pretty much the spill. Martell, what you think?
I feel like by what years? I feel like this is what year? I don't know, 2023. People should know the difference and be able to know the money. It not only know the difference, but at least have the common sense to know that there's a difference in between what cisgender women can and cannot do, and what trans women can and cannot do. By now, it's crazy that this is a debate. Is that people just don't know basic science. So for me, I'm not a trans woman nor a cis woman, but at the same time, I understand that a trans woman cannot have a trans, no, I mean, have a period. Just like I know they cannot get pregnant. Now, I do know that overseas they've been doing tests to basically take the uterus from a cis woman and put it inside of a trans woman. I don't know how far they gotten with that, but yeah, I mean, it's enough science out there, and I feel like if you don't know the difference between what a cis woman and cis trans person is, or how the organs work, or whatever, you know, you're stupid. If you don't know, I'm just gonna put it like that. You're stupid. I don't know no other way to explain it. Like you're stupid for not knowing. I mean, and if you didn't know, you could just do Alexa. Can a trans woman have a period? I don't know if Alexa's gonna work, but
Now, Alexa be talking any other time.
oh, she said, I don't know that one. I mean, I'm just saying, like, from what I'm concerned, I never heard of a trans woman having a period, so I don't know. And then,
Now, trans men can have periods.
yes,
And I
they
would like
can.
to say this, not all cisgender women have periods because of a multitude
So,
of medical conditions.
so wait.
Like
So if
some
a trans man, say like they have a hysterectomy done, do they
they
or can
cannot
they still have? They cannot have a period.
because their uterus is missing. If they
Okay.
have a complete hysterectomy, that's when they take out the uterus and ovaries. And a lot of times they do have to do hormone replacement therapy so they don't go into menopause. So that's another thing that cisgender women do, and trans men can experience when we don't have our ovaries, which produce our estrogen, essentially, right? Estrogen,
Mhm.
progesterone, all of that, right? It puts us into menopause. And that's something that a transgender woman would never experience.
I mean, there's a such thing as menopause.
Totally different dynamics behind that.
I'm just saying. And then speaking of this whole cisgender and stuff, so people who there are straight women and men that's offended when a person of the LGBTQIA plus community is when they say they when they call them a cis, and they taking it as, you know, I have a person of that community calling me a transgender person. Like, no, that's not what it means. There are some heterosexual people out here who think that being called cis male is them calling them gay or a trans person. No, that's just the gender or the identity that you was born as. That's what cis mean. It's just what you was born as. And I believe somebody explained it that later on in life that boy or girl eventually picks what their gender is, which is what people do. But like I said, I'm not against the trans community. Y'all do whatever y'all want to do, you know. I have friends that are trans also, so it's just weird that some people are so offended or not, to me, not so secure in their sexuality that they're offended when somebody call them a cisgender, and I find that a bit hilarious. If in my for my personal um opinion. Oh, Tina must be yelling at Torian. So
I'm back.
wait.
What did I miss?
I was telling everyone how heterosexual people are offended with people that are LGBTQIA plus community, call them a cisgender, because they look at them,
Yes.
they look at it as being they're being called gay or a trans person when it just mean no, you were
You were
born
born as.
as a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
But to them, they look at it as they're being called gay.
That is not what that term means at all.
You know, that's your generation.
Mm. It might be. I might agree with you on that one. Yeah. Might just be. I'm not one of those people though.
Mm. So, speaking of, there was this young lady who went and testified about, I guess, how things are in her community. And I want to play this video. And if anybody else sees this and sees this, just leave a comment or message with me or Tina on Facebook or anything, and give us your thoughts on this. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip for y'all.
I'm sick of hearing people who have second and third and fourth homes over here complaining that we don't need the housing, that we're going to mess with the traffic. Guess what? I'm on the verge of being homeless in a couple of months because I can't afford to pay $1,500, $1,700, $1,800 working for a nonprofit. So please, can we do something for the actual low-income people that live in this community? I'm sick of hearing the wealthy come in here and say all of these things when you're not going to Village Green. Half the kids in Village Green right now are knocking on the other complexes' doors because they don't have food in the summertime. So what is the Hyannis Town Council going to do for those people? By the way, that proposal about cameras all over the place, you all have a very small community of color. Placing cameras everywhere, that scares your community of color. Guess what? You already have had the Trader Reds guy say the N-word all over the place and say that the cops were on his side. How do the people of color in this community feel safe?
Well, she was definitely angry for a reason, a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that resonates for every city, town, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this at length about our school system, particularly our city being still segregated, where certain people of color only live in certain parts of the town, and how we were going to get that money for education and how it was going to be dispersed. Um, just kind of, it's sickening. And yes, it's definitely a broken system. My parents came here from the South for to build a family, because the North at that time had, you know, pretty much better everything for a person of color. And now we're in 2023 and we're still seeing, what is it called, gentrification, um,
Mm-hmm.
of our community, and it's sickening. Like, I feel like we have free public schools for a reason, because not everybody can afford to send their kids to a private school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why communities are not putting back into public education, um, because it's going to benefit society in the long run, right? These kids are going to grow
Mm-hmm.
up. They're going to become the leaders of your community. And if you are older, that means that they're going to become your grandkids' leaders, or great great grandkids' leaders, in the future. So it's like, why are we not, doing cycle some justice by paying it forward and actually investing money where it's most needed? But a lot of people have opinions where they do feel like she spoke about the cameras being everywhere. Okay, do you necessarily need cameras everywhere? Can you use some of that money to actually put into the schools? Like, she works for a nonprofit. Everybody knows when you work for a nonprofit, you are underpaid, right? Because it's not
Mm-hmm.
gaining the type of revenue as other businesses. But a lot of people that work in nonprofit, they do it because they have a passion and they know that population needs help, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's just wild, and I'm glad she got up there and she spoke with so much passion.
Mm-hmm.
But what else can we do besides speaking so passionately about these subjects, like we have been doing for years and decades and decades, right? So it's like, what are the next steps? Voting, of course, you know, paying particular attention to when new rules in your local government are being put into effect, such as at the governor or the mayor level, things like that, paying attention to things that are going on in your criminal court, your circuit courts, like all of those things. We talked about appointing justices that have your same viewpoint, because they do have a lot of power in swaying if something gets put into law. So, it's just a lot of those options, but we're going to trickle it back down. Are the kids in public school being taught these things? Can they be taught these things? Do we have teachers to teach these things? And then going on about how they're rewriting history books, meaning that it kind of puts a cap on what teachers can teach, because now,
Mm-hmm.
because it's been put into a history book, then that means it's real, or this happened or this didn't happen, like the
Mm-hmm.
slaves having gaining skills that benefited them. Like, come on, man. Like, you cannot enslave a entire race of people and then try to turn it around like it was a good thing because they had skills. They were given skills. That doesn't mean anything. They already had their own set of skills to survive. And who's to say that those same people wouldn't have learned them skills not being enslaved? So it's not like you were doing them a justice, you know? So, but you like incarcerated people, they put so, and it's a good thing, they put so much money and time and effort into rehabilitating um, incarcerated people so they can be more productive members of society when they are released into the public. Why can't you do that for the youth, the children? Why are you waiting until somebody gets in trouble and now you're giving them housing, you're giving them food, you're giving them this, that, and the other? I've known or I've heard stories of people that get incarcerated just because they don't have any food, they don't have any housing, and they know if they go to jail, they're going to be taken care of. Plus, they can learn skills. So to me, that's all slave mentality back again. Why do I have to be incarcerated to have these things given to me?
That is that is true. um, One of the issues that I found was recently the one that was here that relates to her is so like even with the spending, like you said, spending the money on the cameras, who knows how many thousands of dollars they spent on that camera. They just like when they increased the sales tax where we live at, just so they can say that that money was to go towards the police and fire, or no, the MPD's retirement plan, pension plans or whatever, county pension plans or whatever. Um,
Where's our Social Security at?
and that's what I'm getting at. So it's like, okay, you guys are making us pay more money for these people who are retired, and yes, they served our communities or whatever. But for some of these people who are retired, some of these police officers were fired from their jobs, who I believe should not be getting a pension still whatsoever, especially if fired for misconduct. You should not be getting their pension still, or they gave them the opportunity to resign instead of firing them, so that way they can keep their pensions. Um, and then I don't really see that being when they said that, oh, we have a pension crisis for the county jobs, whatever it was. I don't feel like that's the everyday working person problem.
Nope.
Because to be honest, so now what if the city was to boycott? So only way Wilson say the only revenue they would have got off of sales tax was for people going to restaurants. But far as everything else, well, they went out of the county, outside the county, to make these purchases.
Yeah.
Then what would y'all do to make up for that money still? Like they said, um, if you go to the grocery store, it doesn't affect food when you go buy groceries and stuff like that. So once again, if we go shop outside the county, how are you guys going to make up that revenue? And then you guys spend some, like Tina said, like the rehabilitation of people in prison and all these other kind of stuff versus helping the kids that's on the street. And you're right, there are there's more money that goes into prisons and into the prison system than it does into public schooling. And to be honest, like I said, there has been a lot of public schools closing. To me, I don't feel like there's many public schools left in Milwaukee and in MPS in general. To be honest, when it comes to public school, because you look at every corner now, every school either a private school or it's some type of Christian school.
I
So
know in our city what they started doing is, we had so many elementary, so many middle, so many high schools. What they're doing now is like they kind of went back to the old, I call them the olden days, where junior high and high school are in the same building. So they had to start to kind of consolidate those buildings because they did not have enough money to keep them buildings up and running.
mm-hmm.
So they have started
Yeah.
doing that. And like you said, yes, a lot of people notice that you can get a lot of kickbacks from starting a private institution. So we have
Mm-hmm.
all of these private schools popping up like Hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, which is a great thing, but problem is not everybody in inner city kitties. Inner city kids can get grants to go to that school so they don't have to pay for it for For example, my one of my kids is attending a private school right now because, like you said, public schools suck here, and he doesn't have to pay anything basically because of my household size, right? I
Mm-hmm.
went to the same school, same high school I graduated from where he's going, and my parents had to pay tuition,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But public school system was way better back then. That was the first time I went to a private school. I went to public schools all the other times, and honestly, I received the same or even better education at those public schools. Okay, and then it even goes deeper where everybody don't want to send their kids to public schools because they're not, they don't have the same religion choices. So basically, private schools are usually religion based here,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not everybody's cup of tea.
Actually, all the just about every private school here is religion based. You might get a few here and there that's not, but majority of the schools that are private here, they're all either related to some type of church
Yep,
or they're just some type of Christian based um, private school.
that is correct.
So if you don't want and if you're not a person who necessarily believes in, how the Bible was written or believe that the Bible was rewritten to fit the world today or try to make it seem to make excuses for people behaviors today, um then they don't want their kids to attend them type of school, which means you're stuck with crappy public schools.
Yes,
And back when I was growing up and going to public schools, we had teachers who actually care. Not saying that teachers don't care no more, but teachers are overstressed and underpaid right now to the point where they kind of don't care about their jobs really no more. And so they're not going to put in that extra effort to, oh, this kid learns visually. This kid is a hands-on learner. This kid learns by, just listening. You know, maybe teachers today don't know how to identify how a kid learns to make, to tailor the lesson plans to the classroom. And then on top of that, like textbooks and like I would say around my last 2 years of high school, textbooks was not a thing. It was, here go this packet, you complete the packet and get out my face. That was my last 2 years of high school.
that's terrible. And I feel like that's kind of like my oldest boys, their school that they went to. It started out with textbooks, so on and so forth. But then they came away from the textbooks and they started to implement more like laptops in the classroom for teaching
Hmm.
purposes because it it's like you can buy a Chromebook for what, like $300, right?
Hmm.
So each classroom has a set of Chromebooks on the desk, and when they come in, it's like they can say, "Okay, we're going to learn this today." Bloop, it pops up on a website, and that cuts down on the amount spent on books, the amount spent on copying papers for packets, so on and so forth. But they did also do the packet thing as well as
Hmm.
far as exercises. Take this packet home, you have to do X, Y, and Z, you know. So, and then it kind of runs into what I'm seeing now. It is a lot of people in 2023 are still illiterate. So now these kids are coming home to parents who, for whatever reason, didn't complete high school, didn't do well in high school. Math wasn't their subject. English is nobody's subject. I'm sorry, all of the English majors out there. Um,
I love English.
Child, you one in a million. But it's like
English
the
and
parents.
history was my thing in school.
So literature to me is different than English. I don't want to write essays about something I don't care about. And that's the problem. You're not these kids, the focus is not being held. It's a lot of shit out here that these kids are eating tons of carbs, tons of sweets. They lack focus. The parents, because they gotta work 7 days a week or two jobs, don't have enough to pay for the 15, 16, 17, $1,800 rent that the young lady was talking about, don't have the
Hmm.
time or or the energy to put back and sit down and, try to help teach these kids. So that's why I feel like more than now, like, I don't understand why teachers or educators, period, any kind of educator, is not being paid what they weigh, because they weigh a lot in our community. As
Hmm.
far as them cutting, extracurricular activities like music. I played violin and piano, and I played classical piano. You know,
It costs so much
like
money.
it, it costs too much money. You get what I'm saying? So, and it's a fine art. Just these schools don't even expose these kids to these things. Rather, they're more interested in rewriting history books,
Hmm.
which is stupid. But then you want to ban certain books, but then you want to take the book that you feel like it's okay to be in the classroom and rewrite it to what you want it to say.
Right. And I feel like that's only the southern states that's doing that, because the northern states, like, you don't hear about, books really being banned like that unless it's a northern state that's ran by like a Republican assembly. You don't really hear about that happening in north. It's all a southern thing where they're trying to rewrite history books and they're trying to ban these books, because I'm pretty sure a lot of books that were banned in Florida, you can go to our libraries here and find them in our libraries or in our schools still. So I kind of feel like that's a southern thing when it comes to banning books, because the South is known for slavery. So what are we going to do? We're going to erase slavery out of our textbooks down here, so that way these kids that's now growing up were like, oh yeah, the South never, that was a lie. The slavery never happened, and then the slavery that did happen, it was to benefit the people.
I'm sorry, it's loud. I'm driving. So, and I agree with you. I do feel like a lot of a lot of those stipulations and restrictions are being placed on people in the South, which is why people try to escape the South, like my parents. You know,
Hmm.
uh, but I also kind of fear, and I don't know if anybody has actually. So I read. I like to read. I like to educate myself through reading. Um, One book that I was actually required to read in school was Fahrenheit 451. So, and they did end up making it into a movie many, many, many years after the book was written.
Hmm.
It is basically about banning books. So if you got caught with a book, they came, kicked your door in, burnt your shit up, and you were incarcerated. Okay.
Hmm.
So I feel like it could possibly be a trickle down effect, because if all the publishers start publishing this way, what you gonna do? You're not gonna buy books for your school. How you gonna?
Right.
Is somebody else going to write a textbook and say this is what we're teaching in my school? You know, I'm so sorry, y'all. Woo, child, the muffler on that thing is non-existent. It's non-existent.
Oh god. Oh god.
So,
Um.
so yeah. Um, I mean, it's a sticky and a sketchy situation all the way around. No matter how you slice and dice it, I am fearful about what's to come for our children in the future. Um, Particularly my grandchildren, if I have any. But that's why I pride myself on teaching and learning these skills and being able to teach other people skills. That's my thing. That's what I plan on doing once I get once I gain as much knowledge as I can gain within my lifetime. I'm gonna turn around and become an educator.
Right. Claps. Um.
Thank you.
So I don't know if anybody has heard this in the news, but so there are three major credit reporting companies. I cannot think of the names off the top of my head, but they basically are these three major credit companies gives like America a credit grade. So a few years ago, one of the three major credit companies dropped America from a triple A credit triple A grade credit thing. They lowered it down to a double A. and which means that they were like, oh, okay, well, you guys are doing some sketchy stuff when it came to Congress or whatever, and now the other two has lowered America down to a double A credit rating. So what does that mean is that America now when we have to borrow money to pay for things, um, we're going to pay more in interest, and it's going to cost us more money. So what made America drop to that? One, well, they and these credit ratings sent letters to Congress and hey, if you guys don't stop messing with the debt ceiling or whatever, this is what's going to happen. So because Congress and but basically the Republicans being on their high horse and not want to raise the debt ceiling when it needed to be raised, and then since they waited to the very last minute, so we kept having these like we kept having these moments when the debt ceiling needed to be raised, and it kept getting cut too close. It took cut too close to the deadline when America needed to be able to pay its bills. So when that happened, they said, well, that happened too many times, so we're going to lower because you guys now became a liability on being able to pay your bills, and we can't trust it. So now that means that we're going to raise your interest rates now. And so how does that affect us? Because Congress is not collecting enough in federal taxes, which means they're not having business. Like when Trump was in office, they would, in some of the laws that he still got in, Trump still has an effect, businesses are not paying their fair share in federal taxes, which means the government is spending more money than what they have coming in federal tax revenue. So due to that, that's why our credit rate dropping because we're spending more money than we have to spend, even when it comes to so they're spending money on these programs and the tax cuts and all these other kind of things that they were doing, and now the money is not coming in, and so now we're reconsidered a liability on being able to make our payments and being able to pay our bills. So how does that affect us? That means that our banks are probably going to charge us more in fees and interest and all that kind of stuff. There it can cause another was it inflation to, it can cause inflation to go back up. There's a lot of things that can happen behind basically Congress saying trying to hold our debt ceiling, our money, and not making businesses pay their fair share in taxes because they're on their high horse like for the rich and for the rich to save money. Now they're costing the whole country to basically be on this brink of we're going to be broke.
Oh, America, why you can't ever get your shit straight? I mean, I
So,
feel like this, right? So, how do you combat inflation or just your citizens if they are going to raise interest rates and taxes, et cetera, and everything everyday needed items are going up in price, like gas, food, right?
hmm
How can businesses play their part in combating inflation? So I'm gonna give you a little tidbit. So the place I work at, because it is a federally qualified health center, they are required to report salaries, funding, how that funding was allocated, and
hmm
um, whatever, if they were at the end of the year, if they were in the positive or the negative, right?
hmm
So one of my coworkers pulled up this information. Lo and behold, the CEO of my company, now I'm not going to say any names, of course, but Marcel, the
hmm
CEO of my company, my little company, makes $350,000 a year. And I'm trying to figure out why.
They make that in profits.
That is the salary.
Oh no, you stop working.
Profit wise, we were over $1 million. Well over
Okay.
$1 million, even in the pandemic. Even with everybody's salaries being where they are. We were $1 million
hmm
over. Okay. And this was last year, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my thing is like, hey, do you guys really need to get paid that? Because your support staff, like if you go on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I always encourage everybody to go on there because the federal government is required by law to post average salaries for all different occupations, right? So I looked
Mm-hmm.
at mine, of course, because I know how to negotiate a good raise or two. Even though I just got a $5 raise, y'all, I just got a $5 raise this year. I am still being paid $5 less than the national average for my occupation. And it's always by state. In my state, I'm still being
Mm-hmm.
paid $5 less per hour. So it's like, what do you do? If you got a million over and you're already understaffed because it's a healthcare facility. Why are you not paying the people that have been there for years, knowing that they working their behinds off because you're short staffed? You can't give me my $5 to bring me up to speed for the state, where I can go somewhere else and get paid that $5 plus more.
Right.
You know, so it's like these businesses are kind of holding their own employees hostage, especially with inflation.
Uh,
So
It's all
we're
for
being hit
profit.
harder.
It's all for
Huh?
profit. That way, it's all for profit. That way, the CEO can pocket more money.
And we're a
That just sound like a
nonprofit
company.
institution.
But then they just like, oh, like say like Walmart, they're not a not for profit. They're not a not for profit. So they are, so say like Walmart that makes $1.2 billion in a year. And let's say like, oh well, Trump was like, well, you know what? Uh, you guys brought in, you made so much money. I want you to keep most of that money. So instead of you paying, your $10 or $12 million in taxes or whatever, and you guys keep the rest. How about you guys just pay $1 million? And that's why our government is defaulting. That's why our credit rating went down, because the the average worker is paying their fair share of taxes, but when it comes to these CEOs, other stuff, and the actual corporations themselves paying their fair share of taxes, they're not paying them.
It's all
So
a
like so
conspiracy.
like Tina said, like she got a $5 raise, but then she looked on the thing and she's actually making $5 less than what the average is supposed to be. But even with that $5 raise, she got a raise, but she still ain't gonna see that $5 raise because they're gonna take at least three of that five in taxes. So
Yeah,
she really only got a $2 raise when you really look at it.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's always a lose-lose situation for the average worker.
And mind you, I've been working since I was 14, so I've more than paid my dues as far as taxes and putting back into the community. I'm working at a nonprofit. Now, I'm taking a lower pay to help my community. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And it's just wild out here in these streets.
Right. I totally agree. All right, let me get into this video so y'all can hear about what they're going to release out into the street. So here we go.
Mm.
He was locked up for being a danger to women and children. And the Supreme Court's about to hear his case, and their decision will affect the safety of every single child and every single woman.
A lot of blood that's going to be on their hands.
After the conservative justices already stripped the freedoms of gay people who can now be refused service by businesses, students who can now be led in government-sponsored prayer, Native Americans and women are now considering stripping the freedoms of every woman and child because their next case decides if domestic abusers
I know I'm no good, Dad.
can get all their guns back. That is why we vote.
What in the hell is going on? See, they be trying to slide this shit underneath our noses like we ain't gonna notice.
That's just like the news didn't report the whole credit thing, and just like the news didn't report that story. See, that's how you know that the government is trying to control what we hear and
Freedom
see
of
through
press.
TV. So that's why they're like the Republicans are trying so hard to get TikTok shut down. For we won't be able to hear stories like that. And now, if you are a domestic abuser, if you went to jail for abusing somebody, no, you should not have a right to get any type of guns or anything back whatsoever. You should be banned from ever being able to hold a gun in your life. You are a violent person. That means there's more than likely a chance that you're going to go back and repeat a violent crime once you get out of jail. So why give that person who has a violent mindset the rights to have weapons again?
Because that's what America do. They want to give everybody a damn gun, which is fine to me in certain aspects of the law. I feel like that law is a little bit too broad. Other than felons can't have them, and only
Hmm.
certain felonies, violent felonies, right?
Right.
And then it also takes their right. So I feel like people who committed treason should not be able to vote. And I feel like that is probably one of the only reasons why a person cannot vote, right? Because you causing treason against your own government, like you finna throw the whole thing away. So,
Right.
but yeah, they always been big on guns, always have been. Um, but then we got how many kids getting shot out here? I feel like it should be more
100.
stipulations on gun laws. I
Yeah,
feel like,
we just had a 11-year-old shoot a 7-year-old or a 7-year-old shoot a 11-year-old recently. So something like that.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like when you buy a gun, it should be required for these places to give you a gun lock automatically. Every gun should come with a gun lock. I don't care who, what, when, how. That should be mandatory. Number two, mandatory should be people have to be trained to use these weapons. You want us to be trained to do every damn thing else.
Right. I
Make
totally
people.
and you should have the gun lock safe, and you should have to pay for that gun lock safe. And if you can't afford to pay for the gun lock safe, then you have no business buying a gun.
I feel like it should be given free with the damn gun. Guns, a regular ass 9mm pistol can cost upwards of about $600 on the average. You can't give me a fucking gun lock with that.
Nope.
You get what I'm saying? And then on top of that, like I feel like where was I going with this? So like carry conceal, you're required to go through a course. I feel like you should be required to go through training for pistols, right? Like, and I feel like for the fact of the matter, when I owned a pit bull, I was required to go through training to have a fucking animal. So you're not doing that for people owning guns? There were so many stipulations. You had to have a 6 foot tall fence. You had to go through training. You had to do this, that, and the other. All of that. The dog had to be registered. You get what I'm saying? So why are these things not being applied to weapons that are meant to kill?
Because we Americans have the rights to bear arms.
And we do have the right to bear arms. We have a lot of freedoms that they told us we have that aren't really freedoms. But this one right here, and it's like
It's a
I
luxury,
believe
not a freedom to me.
I believe the age for a hunting rifle, you don't have to be 18 to shoot a hunting rifle, or you can be less than 18 to even be around a hunting because America values that as a sport.
Right.
So I don't know. Here go, here go another one of those. Oh, that's a motorcycle. Sorry, and it's raining. They out here on this motorcycle.
Right. Before I get into the next thing, y'all, so Tina was driving somewhere and she saw a gang of like people on mopeds driving around.
I was waiting on my son to get done with practice. I was sitting in front of his school. There was like about 11 to 12 people all on red mopeds driving down one of the busiest streets in our city,
Wait, because
like clicked up. I'm like,
I
what is going
saw
on here?
I saw a small gang of moped riders one day, and I instantly thought of you, and I was just like, "Damn, I wonder what would happen if a gang of moped riders pulled up on a gang of motorcycles. Like, how would that fight work? Look, like, how would that look?" And I pictured these moped riders riding up with like the scars around their neck and shit, rolling up on a biker gang and shit. Like, oh my god, it was so hilarious. And I pictured the whole scenario in my head. I was like, that damn Tina. Like, she ain't even around me and got me cracking up this damn hard. Oh my god. I'm gonna play this next clip because I knew this was something that was on Tina's mind that she had told me about, and then I had recently had to go, But he made a comedy sketch about it. So here we go.
You hear about Lizzo?
Wow, I love her.
Well, I hope you love fruit. Huh? She made dancers eat bananas out of vaginas. Lizzo be eating. She also made them catch flying dildos.
With what?
Flying vaginas.
Are we sure it's her?
She did take a DNA test.
And?
100% that bitch.
But she's such a nice body positive.
She fat shamed her dancers.
God damn it.
Yeah, she's getting sued for sexual harassment in a hostile workplace. And write it bad bitch o'clock.
Crazy.
That is bananas. BANA.
Oh, stop.
Ugh. She ruined it.
Dude.
I'm hoping it's not true when he said that she was making people eat bananas out of girls' pussies
So
and catch
she
dildos.
was on a podcast or something like that, and they were talking about fantasies and things, and that was one of the things that she said she liked to watch on specific adult sites. But this was years ago when she was on this podcast.
I'm just like, wow. And then they said she was body shaming her dancers. I'm like, but girl, you not a.
So I saw the two women that were. So it's. So I feel like this. I really don't know what to think about it. So I saw a clip of the two people that had come forth in the suit against Lizzo, claiming that she body shamed them or whatever during her recent tour. So her tour is over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they just not coming forward. And then when they came forward, I saw a couple of other people that were also on tour or had been on tour with Lizzo that were kind of saying the same thing and telling those members of their dance team that how strong they were for coming forward. But then a couple of red flags for me. Number one, if you are openly congratulating them on social media, why are you not part of the lawsuit if these things actually did occur? You get enough people, it becomes a class action lawsuit, right?
All right.
So, and then everybody is eligible for compensation for damages.
Right.
Number two,
go ahead.
Number two, again, I'm going to ask why, if this was going on, why did you not come forth with these allegations at that time? But instead, you chose to complete the tour, even though these types of discriminations were happening, right? So that's red flag number two for me. Then I got to reading comments, and it kind of all made sense. People have their own perspective, and people can have a way with words and twisting them and so on and so forth, right? So my whole thing is any artist that's on tour, any dancer, you are chosen because your ability to dance and the way you look. I don't care what anybody say, right?
Yeah,
If
it's
the
100% based off of that. Can you do the choreography, and how well you do the choreography, and do you have the look?
Yes. Now each artist has their own vision of how they want their, you know, how they want their dancers to look for um for a tour, right?
Hmm.
So I believe it was the problem was that the person in question has started to gain some weight. Now they invest millions of dollars into these concerts, including into costumes. So
Hmm.
if you're gaining weight to the point that you can't fit into your costume anymore, then it's just like, okay, that's an issue. Just like if
Right.
I'm a cheerleader and I look a certain way, or if a person is pregnant, they start showing, yeah, you know. So I'm pretty sure there were contracts that had to be signed, and these people were compensated for their job. These women got paid. They didn't get
Hmm.
fired. No, nothing. So if your boss comes up to you and say, "Hey, mm, that job I hired you for, I feel like you're kind of underperforming. I need you to get that together." What? That is your job. You have to look a certain way and you have to perform in a certain manner at any job.
And you think if a stripper gets too sloppy, that the owner of the club gonna be like, they gonna keep them there?
But then
No.
it's like she employed plus size women.
Hmm.
So you were already plus size when she employed you.
Yep.
So how can you sit up there and say she fat shamed you when she has been so public about being body inclusive, and she went on her own health journey when she changed her diet, started exercising for her health, and it wasn't primarily for the way that she looked. She wanted to improve. She wanted to improve her health, right?
Hmm.
So I just, I'm just not understanding. At least those are some of the things that I read into. Once the lawsuit comes out, the legal papers and all of that stuff can be made public. You can read more into what the facts are and what they actually said and so on and so forth, or what was said. Um, I just feel like body shaming is a very broad term. And like, did she call you fat in front of everybody and make you cry? Or did she pull you to the side and say, hey, it was brought to my attention XYZ, like any employer would? Or did she have a manager? Because it's different people managing these things, right? During a tour. Did
Hmm.
one of the managers come up to you and say something and said that it came out of Lizzo's mouth? Because those people can misconstrue and change and switch up words as well. Lizzo could have brought it to them a certain way, and whoever relayed the message, it came out different out of their mouths. It's a lot of shit, right?
Right.
So I feel like this one, I want to kind of like sit tight and see how it's played out. But I don't know. Some people just doing the most. And I'm not going to say who those people are, but just in general, some people just be saying and doing the most. I mean, I was brought up by military people. I feel like a lot of people are a little bit too soft when it comes to things. Like, it's a right and a
Mhm.
wrong, but then people are entitled to their opinions as well. You know,
Right.
like saying the word nigger to a black person is not illegal. Freedom of
But it will
speech.
get your ass whooped.
It will.
um, I know somebody had said the reason why they what said the reason why they waited until after the tour to came out to speak up or do this loss or whatever is because they were in fear of their job. And like it's
If
like
you
I'm
and
probably
fear your job, if you got a case, if you got a solid ass case, you finna get compensated. I'm not trying to hear that shit. Fuck that job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not finna stay nowhere. I'm that's 101.
Tina phone
You can
always
sue
messes up,
if
y'all,
you're
when she
retaliating.
reconnected to Wi-Fi.
Oh, my bad. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like but I mean, if you feel like what did she froze again?
can
What
you
was?
see me now?
Oh, there you go.
Good. So I was saying that's employment 101. You can sue if you are being retaliated against for being a whistleblower, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know, so I mean, and really, like, fear your job, like you were going to get fired. Like, what are we going to do? So now you bringing it forth after the tour, and it's like it's a possibility you're still going to hurt your chances of being employed by any other musician or star or have another dancing role.
Mm-hmm. Or
If
you're not
you
gonna get
fear
her rehired to go
retaliation,
back on tour with her. Like, why would I rehire you to go back on tour with me and you sue me?
yeah. So you might just be cancel culture is a huge thing, you know. So you
Mm-hmm.
bringing it forth. So now you got to ride this shit on out and accept you either gonna get compensated or you're not. Even if you get compensated, you might not get hired no more. That might be it. And if you don't get
Right.
compensated, you just out of money, and you might not get hired nowhere again. You know,
Right.
that's how Hollywood works, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. It's a lot of things to the story that I haven't been able to connect the dots yet, but I do want to kind of see this one ride on out.
Well, that being said, I got one more clip before we go. I have multiple clips, but we ain't got enough time to get through all of those. So I got one more clip for y'all. I'm gonna play that, and then we're gonna head out of here. So here we go.
Barbie, or Black Panther for white bitches, opened this weekend to huge box office numbers, grossing $155 million. Oh my god! I can't breathe. Critics are worried that Barbie will set unrealistic expectations for toy movies. Hey! Black Panther for white bitches!
With
That's
that,
it. That's what
that's what
the
I'm saying.
movie
With
is
that,
being called here on out. That's it.
with that being said, that is the show. Um. Oh God, Barbie is is Black Panther for white bitches. There you have it, and it came from their own caucus. Um, don't forget to head over to repsports.com and use code Marta. Want to receive 5 to 10% off your purchase. Don't forget to head over to habitsnewyork.com and use code Anthony Ford to receive 20% off your purchase. Don't forget to check out our social media pages, which is Instagram and TikTok. It's SCDD Podcast. And then our Facebook, Same Cast Different Day Podcast. You can watch us live every Thursday at 7:15 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. That's all I can remember right now. So thank y'all for tuning in to this episode. The Same Cast Different Day Podcast. And we will see y'all next week, because I think it's 3 or 4 more episodes left of the season. So we'll see y'all next week. Okay, we don't see y'all. Okay, all right now. All right, we don't see y'all. All right, okay, all right now.